Perfect. All right, it's going to do a kind of an update here on my Tech Wlvrn. I now have the 5.56 conversion kit, but I've shot over 1,000 rounds with my 308 conversion kit in it. So I'm just going to kind of go over why this is my favorite bullpup rifle now and some of the issues I had. Watch previous videos, you can probably see more in detail what I really like about this rifle. But to sum it up real quick, I like how light it is, how svelte it is, the controls are great, ergonomics are great, adjustable grass is good, disassembly, cleaning it is good, all that stuff, I really like it. The issues I've had, when I first got it, it was dropping 308 mags, and I was getting ejection issues. Took it back to Tech, they fixed those. I also had a chip on the bolt, they also replaced that under warranty. When I got it back, it worked fine. I even did a 50 round drum of 308 and it held that in. Older 308 mags that were worn, it would kind of still drop, but I've actually figured out a way to solve that. I'll go into detail later in the video. The only other issue I've had with it is, I'll see if I can get kind of a close-up here, is this back here kind of likes to pull away. I have a couple instances where this pin starts blocking out, but it's pretty infrequent, pretty rare it does it. I did kind of take it apart, clean it, and it seems like that kind of solved it, so that's something to be aware of. There might be a way to change this pin out for something better, but it's not really that big of an issue. I haven't had it happen that many times. So yeah, close to 1,000 rounds of 308. It's been great. 5.56, I've only ran a couple hundred rounds through it, but I haven't had any issues with the 5.56. Previous videos I talked about accuracy a little bit, thinking this was going to be, you know, 1.5 or so MOA rifle, but so far my experience, and also Tech, some videos they release about accuracy, I have not been able to achieve that. I'm pretty much right in line with what Tech has. So if you're really curious about accuracy, go watch Tech's videos on the Wlvrn accuracy wise, and my accuracy's kind of been on par with that. I'm going to do some more accuracy testing, but I think it's kind of limited with kind of the pencil barrel that has in the 308 and 5.56, so I think it can be a more accurate gun with a more heavy barrel and stuff like that, but it's better than my X95s by far, so I'm happy with the accuracy for what it is. Now, a couple of the things I kind of changed on it outside of what Tech did. I should mention, this is stuff I kind of went above and beyond on. The rifle was running reliably 100% once I got it back from Tech. This is the stuff I kind of did. I felt that further elevated it into a better and more reliable platform. The first thing I did was I machined a new gas piston. And what the difference between this and the factory one is, the front is basically hollowed out. And then I also kind of bored out the gas regulator. I'm not going to try to show that on camera, you're not going to see anything. But kind of what my thought process on that was, is I felt like the extraction and ejection was pretty fast and somewhat violent. Even though it was fine, I felt like it could be better, so I increased the volume inside where the gas piston is to try to delay the bolt opening and traveling, and in my experience, I believe that worked. I have some video, I'll see if I can put it in here, but before making that modification to the gas system in 308, it would run, once you found the gas setting, it would shoot, it would run reliably. But if you took the gas system setting down one notch, then you wouldn't get lock open on an empty magazine. You go up above where it was working one notch, and you'd start getting shells basically ejecting too hard, and they'd get jammed up in here. Basically, if you can imagine like the bolt closing on an empty casing like that. After the modification, I I had to up the gas just like 1 notch because of the greater volume now. So once you got the gas setting and lock back on the magazine, obviously if you go back down one, it's not going to lock open. But as you go up in notches, instead of jamming, you would actually start getting your ejection moving further and further forward, like almost what you would expect, like say on an AR-15 or something like that. So in my opinion, in my experience, I think having the increased volume here kind of softened that up a little bit and made the bolt carrier move just a little bit slower, and just kind of put it in that sweet spot where when you start giving it more and more gas, you're not introducing jams, you're just basically ejecting harder and harder forward. A lot of that I think is just I think that helps because where your gas port is, you know, relative to the full length of the barrel, it's kind of a, I think I measured it out, it's not quite a carbine length like on an M4. It's more kind of closer to actually to a mid length, but not quite. So it's not like a bad length, but I feel like it's probably a little on the close side. I think moving this gas port up a little bit would also probably have the same effect. So kind of info to you out there, and if you're willing to tinker with it, or hopefully Desert Tech sees this video and maybe it sparks a conversation and maybe they find a way to improve that. The only downside I potentially think of something like this is there is less material now, you know, towards the back here because it's hollowed out, so you could potentially have a failure in braking. I haven't experienced that. I've ran probably about 700 rounds using this piston, this exact piston, in both 308 and 5.56. I haven't had any issues or signs of issues, so something to be aware of. Also, the other potential issue is having a larger volume for gas to expand in, is it's also going to cool down and start possibly fouling, so it could be an area that has to be cleaned more often. When I first got the rifle, it was dropping 308 mags. When I got it back from Desert Tech, they replaced the spring in here and stuff, and it stopped dropping mags for the most part. Any of my P-mags that were new, relatively new, Lancer mags, the 50 round drum wouldn't drop. I have an old 308 25 round mag that was kind of worn, and it would drop that periodically. So I kind of took it upon myself to think of a way to further improve that. But I want to iterate once again. Once I got back from Desert Tech, it wasn't dropping mags if the mag was in good condition. But in my opinion, what the source of the issue is in the 308 caliber, because it's the heaviest recoiling caliber. When the gun's in recoil and this is moving back, your magazine system has inertia to it, and so it wants to stay put while this is traveling backwards. And so what happens is under recoil is this starts moving, and that's what ends up dropping the magazine. And it's further reinforced by the fact that they have this counterweight right here, so you can see that moves backwards when the bar moves forward to try to kind of counteract some of that inertia. In my opinion, that's probably not enough. So what I did is I basically created an interlock between the trigger and the magazine system. So let me decock it here. So normally you can push the magazine release the mag, all's good. You know, it's kind of, when it's out of the gun, it kind of doesn't behave the exact same, but yeah. So it's out, so you can release the magazine normal. Now when you pull the trigger, what happens is you can no longer release the trigger, or so you can no longer depress the magazine. So what happens, so when you fire it and the gun recoils, I welded a piece onto the trigger so it goes up and it interferes with that counterweight, so now it can no longer move. It can move a little bit, so I'm pulling the trigger right now, it can kind of move. If I release the trigger, then it can move all the way. And that once I did that, I was able to take my worn PMags, load them up and shoot, and it would not drop them at all. So I think that's a fairly simple design change for Desert Tech to possibly implement. So hopefully maybe they see this video and they see that and they think it's a good idea. Try to sum this up real quick. It's been a great rifle. Few issues in the beginning. Desert Tech took care of them. And then there was a couple things I felt like I could improve upon to make the gun even better, which I think it has. So hopefully Desert Tech sees this video, sees those couple modifications, and maybe I'll learn something, or they can figure out some improvements or something like that. So I would say this is probably my favorite bullpup rifle now, both in 5.56 and 308. Really, it's like, compared to the Tech Wlvrn 7, it's a much smaller, lighter gun. Shoots just as good. I think the accuracy is about the same. And then in 5.56, you know, it's a little bit lighter than the X95, but not a whole lot. But I feel like the controls are just a little bit better, and accuracy is a lot better. And it's just kind of a thinner and just more elegant gun, and I think it has better options for handguards, stuff like that. So I think this is it's a good gun to buy, but I think, you know, still keep an eye on other owners as they get these guns, and hopefully Desert Tech tightens up their QC if they haven't already, and people don't have any issues like I had before. If you're looking to buy this gun, kind of my recommendations would be, you know, just to be aware that there have been issues with these, so, you know, kind of prepare yourself mentally if there is an issue, but be aware Desert Tech will fix them. And then as far as calibers, my only experience is in 5.56 and 308. Really, I think in 2024, 308, I probably wouldn't get a 308 version. I'd probably go 6.5, unless you have a very specific reason you really need a 308. Last I looked, 6.5 Creedmoor is pretty close to the same price as 308. And you're gonna have a little less recoil, better accuracy, as what Desert Tech showed in their videos, and less likely you're gonna have issues with the magazine dropping because you have less recoil force in it, and then just less recoil. I mean, this is a 7.5 pound gun, so on 308 you can push you around a little bit. But if you're thinking about this gun in 5.56 or 300, I think that's probably a good option. I really would like to see a, you know, a short micron 300 blackout gun, but we haven't seen that yet because there's challenges with the gas system being here and having the barrel cut there with 300 blackout and subsonic ammo. But yeah, I really like this gun. You know, little kind of a rough start, a couple of issues, and I still think there's probably a couple little things you can kind of Desert Tech can tweak on it to make it even better. But Desert Tech is known to kind of do updates as they build these. They're responsive to the market, so hopefully they can come up with some further improvements like I showed. But yeah, I like the gun. It's a good gun, and it's my favorite bullpup.